Welcome to another podcast of the current situation Manchester United. In this video podcast, I'm going to be talking about whether or not Ryan Giggs of Manchester United, who used to play for Manchester United, is he the most overrated player ever? Is he overrated, period? We're going to dive into that in this video because I saw a post that caught my attention on my phone some days ago. And I'm going to be reading the post here right now. So it says, Giggs was a good player, and this is by Tony Montana at Tony Montana. Giggs was a good player, very reliable, very consistent, and his longevity is incredible. He was never anywhere near world class. He never had anywhere near a world class season. Giggs is probably the most overrated player of the last 50 years, in my opinion. If he said Ryan Giggs is probably the most overrated player of the last 50 years and left it at that, then I would have gotten onto him because he just stated a subjective opinion. No, the fact that he said in his opinion means that it is opinion, so I'm not going to knock him for his opinion. Everybody has their opinion when it comes down to footballers in football. So if they say, in my opinion, such and such is better than such and such, or in my opinion, such and such is the most overrated player of all time, whatever, that's their opinion. So you cannot them for their opinion. But if they state opinion, like if they say something like Eden Hazard is the best Premier League player of all time, I just leave it like that. That's a subjective opinion. You're opening criticisms to come your way, especially from Chelsea fans. So if you state in your opinion like this person stated, then, you're stating your opinion. You're not stating it as if it's a fact. Because if you left out in my opinion, they didn't say it in your statement, then you're stating it as a fact. You never say in my opinion or in my subjective opinion, such and such. You just say it. But in this person's case, he said in my opinion. So anyway, going back to the post, he said that Ryan Giggs was a very good player, but not anywhere near I can't even talk. Not anywhere near world class, or he didn't have a world class season. No, in the peak of Ryan Giggs, I wasn't born. Or I was born, but that was like at the back end of his peak. Especially as a left winger, because Ryan Giggs' peak was at least mid-90s to late 90s or early 2000s. That was Ryan Giggs' peak on the left wing. Now, even more so in the 90s. I was born in 96. So when it was 96, he was at his peak then. Because he came out to the academy, I think, in 92 or something. Something like that. With Beckham, the Neville brothers, Scholesy, Nicky Butt, you name the rest. So, in my opinion, is Ryan Giggs the most overrated player of all time? No, he's not. No, he's not. And this is not coming from a Man United fan perspective either. No, I have my bias towards Man United players, but I'm not the biggest fan of Ryan Giggs. I'm not. I don't hate the dude. The dude's character is questionable aside from football, but as a player, he's not really a favorite of mine. But I've seen clips of him back in his day, and he reminds me of Leroy Sané when Leroy Sané was balling at Manchester City. How Leroy Sané was playing at Man City is how Giggs was playing at United on that left wing in the 90s and even in the early 2000s. He's that type of player. He's an unorthodox winger. He doesn't cut in and try to shoot. He tries to create, and he blows down that left wing. He's running with that pace. He's running at defenders, killing players for dead, leaving them on the backside, that type of thing. That was the type of thing Ryan Giggs was on in the 90s based on the clips I saw, because I was not watching this guy live. I never see this bridge on live television or playing football. So I'm just watching I've seen clips of him. Now, as relates to him not having a world class season, what's the definition of a world class season? What's the definition of a world class season? They have to first define that, because world class season is subjective. You could have some person may say a world class season as an attacker, meaning you have at least 20, not 20, you have at least 50 goal contributions in one season, meaning you have 25 goals and 25 assists, or you have 35 goals and 20 assists, or 45 goals and 10 assists. It ranges, it ranges. So, and they're person that have world class season and they only score 3 goals. Luka Modric won the Ballon d'Or in 2017, 2018, and this Bridging was, I don't even think this Bridging scored more than 5 goals in one season. And he won the Ballon d'Or, but he was crucial to Croatia in the World Cup, and he was crucial to Real Madrid's midfield in leading them to the Champions League final and then winning the Champions League final. So there's different definitions of defining a world-class season. Because just because he could have 10 goals and 10 assists as a midfield don't mean that you have a world-class season. Because if you look at the quality of them assists and 10 goals, I mean, if you're scoring those goals from close range, and some of them, most of the assists that you assisted to the players that you play with are from 2 inches or 2 yards, is that really a world-class season? So that's my point. A world-class season is very subjective. Like, look at Bruno Fernandes' season last season. He had 18 goals or 19 goals and 18 assists. That's a good in terms of numbers, that's a good season. And I would say he had a good season last season, despite Manchester United finishing 16th in the Premier League table last season. But going back to Ryan Giggs, I don't want this video to belong. He never had a world-class season, in my opinion. Ryan Giggs never had a world-class season, in my opinion. Whether that's due to numbers, I wouldn't say in terms of no, man, my hair looks messed up, and I just came out of the shower and just comb my hair. I feel like Martin Odegaard does my hair like that. Man, I need to stop doing that. That's a white man stuff. But Ryan Giggs, in my opinion, never had a world-class season based on numbers. In terms of world-class season, just by how he played, I would say some of the seasons probably back in I'm sorry for if you're hearing the noise in the background, that's my, but that's not from me, so I have no control over that. But the thing is, that's more so in the 90s. I would say his peak, like running out defenders, leaving them for then, just leaving players' knees knackered, is in the 90s. His goal against Arsenal in the FA Cup final is very vital. Taking off his shirt and exposing that tree on his chest it was in the form of a tree, but it was made out of hair. It was on his chest and he was swinging his shirt. That goal is a legendary goal by Ryan Giggs. That goal is reminiscent of what Ryan Giggs was in the 90s. Running at defenders, beating defenders for pace, and scoring or assisting. That was Ryan Giggs. Now, I would say the type of winger Ryan Giggs was back in the 90s is a dying breed. Because like I said, Leroy Sané back in his peak at Man City was, I think he's the last winger that embodied that type of style of play. Running up players, not even worried about, I mean, they're gonna score eventually, but it's not like he's trying to cut in on, well, given that they're playing on the left side and they're left footed, so it's not like they can go cut on them right side and try to scoop with them right foot. But their thing is not, they're not going to be like, they're not inside forward, they're natural traditional wingers, and that used to be a big thing back in the day. Now you have wingers cutting in on them favorable foot and trying to score, like Aaron Robben. Like, I mean, Robben used to play left wing when he was at Real Madrid and Chelsea with Damien Duff, but as he became more of a proper player, a world-class player, he played on the right side and became more of an inside forward, cutting on the inside and scoring with that left foot, whipping it, into the top bins, scoring. That became his style of play. But that was never Ryan Giggs. Ryan Giggs was more of a creative winger than a goal-scoring winger. But no, he never had a world-class season by numbers. And I would say, in terms of world-class season, I'm not sure. I really can't say. It's not like I've watched all of his goals, not based on stats, but his performance in the 90s. A mosquito, I want to slap the mosquito, you see. Wait until I see you again. I slap you, you see Blinky. But I don't think he had a very world class season though. So I might renege on what I said some minutes ago because I just said he probably had some world class seasons in the 90s. But me thinking on that, I'm a renege on that and say I don't think he did. But that said, I don't think he's overrated either. Because it takes a certain individual to adapt from one era of the Premier League to another era of the Premier League. You have to understand. Ryan Giggs was from the era where football was football. 4-4-2 flat. Two strikers up top, two traditional wingers, two midfielders, and a back four with a goalkeeper. You understand? And football wasn't as complex as it was, as it is today, as I should say. It's not as complex. You have two strikers up there, so one is more so bigger than the other striker. So when you're playing long, you're going for the big centre forward. The big centre forward knocks it down into the small striker, and the small striker scores. And when the winger gets the ball, they're looking to cross the ball into the box, so the striker scores. That's the type of football Giggs started off with. And as the 90s come on, that continued. Now, as 2006 came about, particularly with Mourinho started coming with his 4-3-3, that's where football started to change up a bit. It became more fast-paced. It became more physical. Well, I mean, the Premier League was always physical. Let's get that totally away. But it became more tactical. That's what I should say. More tactical. Because you have Arsene Wenger of Arsenal. You have Benitez at Liverpool. You had Mourinho at Chelsea. And you have, of course, Sir Alex Ferguson at Man United. So, and everybody was trying to have their slice of the pie when it comes down to the top four spot. You understand? Tottenham. Nobody was talking about Tottenham. But you had sides like Chelsea, like Jose Mourinho reinvented Chelsea. Because when Jose Mourinho came to the Premier League with the 4-3-3, he won the Premier League twice in his first 2 seasons at Chelsea. Jose Mourinho played Joe Cole on the left wing, or Damien Duff on the left wing, Robin on the left wing, or one of them on the left on one of the wings. You see me? And you had Mikel, you had Lampard, you had Makaleli, and whoever else was in the midfield for Chelsea. And of course, you had Drogba up top, and this white striker that used to play for Barcelona, Sigurdsson. Is it Sigurdsson? His name. You know who I'm talking about, man. That guy. So anyway, when Mourinho came to football in the Premier League, Sir Alex Ferguson had to adapt because he didn't win the Premier League for 2 seasons. I think he finished 2nd and 3rd in respective seasons, and that is where United fans started to unfortunately call for the head of Sir Alex Ferguson. They say, well, Manchester United fans, Paul, we ain't win the Premier League for 2 seasons and we're calling for Sir Alex Ferguson's head. And look at things right now. We haven't won the Premier League for like a decade and some change. When I say a decade and some change, I'm talking about a decade and 2 years, basically. A decade and 2, that's so much. 12 years we haven't won the Premier League. And persons' impatience, man, we're spoiled. But they were calling for Sir Alex Ferguson. Some fans wanted Sir Alex Ferguson gone because we haven't won the Premier League twice, although we finished in the top 4. So going back to Ryan Giggs, this is where the football changed for Manchester, because you have to understand, we used to play 4-4-2. Van Nistelrooy and Rooney up top, or Van Nistelrooy on or what's his name again, Saha up top. Beckham on the right wing, which is actually a right midfielder. Giggs on the left wing, which is actually a left midfielder. And you have Scholes and Keane in the middle. And you have whoever else was playing in the back 4. But when Mourinho came with that football of his, that 4-3-3, that had to change up. He couldn't stick with the 4-4-2. Which and with the acquisitions of Wayne Rooney and Cristiano Ronaldo and some other youngins, the individuals had to change. The personnel had to change. Van Nistelrooy was sold to Real Madrid. Ryan Giggs was no longer a winger, whether that was due to him passing his prime or that is not what Sir Alex Ferguson wanted from him at that time. He wanted him to play more so centrally because Ryan Giggs was getting on a bit. Yes, he was getting on a bit. Ryan Giggs is not immortal. So he had to play him in the midfield to try to accommodate his services as a player. Because Giggs is very creative. Giggs can drop back and create as like a number 10. And that is what he became in the 2006-2007 season. When Ronaldo played more so, because when Beckham left, we signed Ronaldo. We wanted Ronaldinho. We got Ronaldo instead. Ronaldo was more so a right winger. So he was playing as a traditional winger then, or a traditional right midfielder then. That is why people say Ronaldo started off as a midfielder, but he was actually still a winger. But anyway, in 2006, that football changed, where we had to play more of a fluid front three. So Giggs had to drop in that midfield three with Carrick or Scholes. That was more so the midfield. And up front is either Luis Saha and Rooney, and you have Ronaldo on the left wing. That is where. Listen, if we still play the 4-4-2, we still play the 4-4-2, but it was more so. I don't want to get confused here, but it was more so like Fletcher playing on the right midfield, because although he was a centre midfielder, we still played him on the right midfield. Ronaldo was on the left midfield, or sometimes switching, because we used to switch wingers. Or sometimes Giggs would still play on the left midfield and Ronaldo on the right. But actually in the game itself, Giggs wouldn't stay out wide as he did back in his prime. As he did back in the 90s and early 2000s. He would come centrally, while Ronaldo still go wide, and you have Patrice Evra overlapping, making up for that width, with Giggs dropping deep in the midfield. You get what I'm saying? So that is what happened. So that is the evolution. So it is not easy, going back to my point, it's not easy for Giggs to adapt throughout all these years, man, from 92 to 2013, 2014. Because I would say he was world class up until, I would say, probably 2004, 2005. Then he became very good. He was very good, and he was very good during the 2000s. Then he started to wash up a bit and became more of a, well, he was already a central attacking midfielder, but that is what he became, and then he phased out and he retired. So to answer this question, no, he's not the most overrated player. Now, it's funny because when we're talking about the best player in the Premier League, Ryan Giggs' name rarely comes up. People talk about Cristiano Ronaldo, Thierry Henry, Wayne Rooney. People talk about Alan Shearer. People talk about Eden Hazard. People talk about Gareth Bale. But they never talk about Giggs. So I wouldn't say he's the most overrated player of all time, like in the last 50 years, in this Bridgen's opinion, like he stated. But in some case, I would say he's a bit overrated. In a sense. I may sound wishy-washy, but in a sense, he may sound overrated. He's a bit overrated. Yeah. Why is he a bit overrated? Because, again, look through this. I mean, whether we like it or not, numbers is a big thing, Man, my hair needs to comb. I need to comb my hair, bro. I don't like how my hair mess up right here, so I have to comb my hair. Because it's distracting me. But you have to understand, whether you like it or not, number is a big thing in football. Especially if you're an attacker / striker. Numbers is a very, very big thing. Because Beckham was, I wouldn't even say Beckham was world class. Beckham was not world class in my opinion. David Beckham was never world class in my opinion. David Beckham was never world class. No, his crossing was world class. His passing was world class. His free kicks were world class, but him as an overall player was not world class. He was no Zidane. David Beckham was no Zidane. Zidane was world class. Up until his retirement. That's how world class he was. And even then he was washing up, but he was bossing midfield, like Brazilian midfield in the World Cup. He was world class Zidane till the age of 34. Beckham was very good. But I wouldn't say he wasn't. I wouldn't say he was world class. Man, fuck, going back to overrated, persons still consider David Beckham an overrated player. But I would never say David Beckham was. I would never say he was world class. I would never say Ryan Giggs was world class either. No, will I say he's a bit? Yes, he's a bit over it, but I would never say Ryan Giggs was world class. Just because you can run at players and be players for pace and create doesn't mean that you're world class. Because see, you have to understand, man, and this is why Gareth Bale, and Eden Hazard is held in higher regard than Ryan Giggs. It's because Ryan Giggs, in his best years at United, played in the best years at Manchester United's history. He played in the best Manchester United squads, with the best Manchester United players, with the best players, I should say. He played with Teddy Sheringham, Dwight York, Andy Cole. He played with Scholes. He played with Roy Keane. He played with a lot of leaders. He played with Rio Ferdinand. He played with Peter Schmeichel. He played with a lot of great players, man. And he played in some of Manchester United's best squads and played in Manchester United's best seasons in the Manchester United's history. And when you compare that with Bale at Tottenham, particularly the season that Bale had in 2012-2013, this dude single-handedly led Spurs to Europa League, and he became their best player. He was already their best player in that season, and that is not a squad that had a lot of stacked world-class players. They had a washed-up Adebayor who was still good, but he was washed up. A Lennon that was good, but he's not world-class. Like going back to what I'm saying, Aaron Lennon could have run up players and beat them for pace. And like I just mentioned, just because they can run a player and beat them for pace don't mean say world class. So that in itself should answer the question. That doesn't mean that you're world class. World class is a player where you are like the epitome of the squad. You are the main man of the squad. Like if you are not in the squad, your presence is felt and your absence is felt. That is how you know say world class. Or you're like the best player of the squad, which makes you world class. In my opinion, if your presence is felt in the squad and you make a big impact with no matter how good players are or lack thereof, and you still make an impact, you're a world-class player. That is why Gareth Bale, in my opinion, in my opinion, is the best British player over Giggs, over his countryman Giggs. Gareth Bale is a better countryman, is a better Welsh player than Ryan Giggs, hands down. This brethren go bring Wales far as he can in football tournaments, in international tournaments, whether it's the World Cup or the Euros. With Eden Hazard, however you want to pronounce his first name, is the same thing. This brethren didn't play. He played with some good Chelsea squads, particularly in 2014, 2015, and 2016, 2017 under Antonio Conte, and in Jose Mourinho's return. But you look at the other seasons, man. This brethren wasn't in the. Chelsea. They had good players, but Chelsea, you guys know how Chelsea are, man. Chelsea will turn on their manager if things are not going good. They did that to Antonio Conte, and they did that twice to Jose Mourinho, particularly on his second return. The players turn on him. And because of that hostility, and the players not, their moral is low, this brethren still performed day in, day out. And yes, Eden Hazard he had a trashy season by numbers in 2015, 2016. This brethren didn't score a Premier League goal for almost one season full. And it took him like the last 3 months or the last 2 months after the 2015-2016 season to go score at least 3 goals. He scored an individual goal against Liverpool at Anfield. He beat a couple players, beat them and go score and finish it and score. And that goal should have showed you the quality he still had. And he go scored a world-class goal against Tottenham that pushed out Tottenham to win the Premier League and let Leicester City win the Premier League. So yes, he still showed glimpses, and he was still the main man of Chelsea for like almost from 2000. I would say he was the main man for Chelsea ever since 2014 to 2019. Because even when they had Cesc Fabregas, I mean, this Belgium was getting like 20 assists from midfield alone, and they had Costa and they had Willian, but still Eden Hazard was the main man out of all of them. And his presence and his absence could have been felt. That is how you know celebration was world class. And that is why, in me wrapping up, that is why Eden Hazard and Gareth Bale will be held in higher regard than Ryan Giggs. And that's a Manchester United fan saying that. I don't care what you say about Ryan Giggs, morals and integrity in real life. I don't care about that. I think he's a prick in real life, Ryan Giggs. You're knocking on your brother's wife as if that's a normal thing. That is not normal. You're not a normal person if you're knocking down on your brother's wife like that. You're not normal. Something's wrong with you, man. But even if that didn't happen, he still would have been classified as overrated, or he is not a world-class player, that type of stuff. So it's nothing to do with his misdeed or his discretion off the pitch. It has nothing to do with that. He really didn't have a world-class season, in my opinion, and he wasn't world-class. He wasn't a world-class player, and he didn't have world-class season. Because even if Ryan Giggs was left out of the world-class squads that United had, we still would have won. I mean, yes, he was a part of us winning the FA Cup, scoring that individual. Man, I'm looking shredded. Look at that. Just took a shower. My veins are up and running. Look at that. Feel like Incredible Hulk without the muscles. But even though he scored that solo goal against Arsenal in the FA Cup final in '98, that doesn't. Like I say, he was a very great dribbler. Quick. He was thin. Very quick. You couldn't stop him, but he still wasn't world class. You have Chan Chelsea, who was like a bench player, but he wasn't world class neither. And the thing is that Sir Alex Ferguson, me wrapping up, use average players / good players to make them look better than they actually were. Because if Ryan Giggs played for another side, would he have been better? Would he have been a good player like he was back in the day, or was he a system player, the typical by the book system player? Leave your comments in the comment section. Like I said, he's a bit overrated, Ryan Giggs. He's still a legend for Manchester United, Ryan Giggs. This Virgin has way more Premier League titles than you can ever dream of. He has more than 10 Premier League trophies. Yes, more than 10 Premier League. The Premier League was inducted in 92. And ever since 92, this Virgin has been winning Premier League trophies. This Virgin has more Premier League trophies than clubs in the Premier League. And this Virgin could literally open a Premier League club, and the club would have had more Premier League trophies, albeit that he bit it off because he was playing for Man United. But that club that he started would have had more Premier League trophy medals than other Premier League sides in the Premier League. So his legacy is unquestioned. What he did for Man United, nobody can question that. He's a legend. He's a legend for Manchester. I don't care what he did for Wales. I don't care about that. For what he did for Manchester United, he's a legend. His legendary status cannot be touched. I'm not gonna say there should be a stadium outside of Old Trafford, in front of Old Trafford, like they did with the three Holy Trinity, George Best, Bobby Charlton, and whoever else, Dennis Law. I'm not saying that. Ryan Giggs should never have a statue. You see me, but this virgin is a legend regardless of that. But you will never see you'll never see most persons in me wrapping up for the third time. You'll never hear most persons talking about Ryan Giggs in their all-time Manchester United lineup. You might hear it's if you were supposed to ask me my all-time Manchester United lineup of all time, Giggs might be in there. But he will not start left wing because Ronaldo will be on the left wing. Ronaldo will be on the left wing, and on the right wing I would have I would actually have Ronaldo on the right wing if I was supposed to have my all-time Manchester United starting level. I'm not going to go through that, but giving an example, I would have CR7 on the right wing and George Best on the left wing. Beckham and Giggs would be missed out, would be asked out. They wouldn't be in the starting level. They just wouldn't. They just wouldn't. So yes, Ryan Giggs is a wee bit overrated, but he's not the most overrated player of all time. I'm not going to be saying he's the most overrated player of all time, but he's a wee bit overrated. No, I'm not going to say it's his fault that he's wee bit he's a wee bit overrated, or he's overrated because that's due to fans' opinions. But don't be saying that this Virgin is world class and this Virgin was the best thing since last bread in Premier League. Don't be saying that. That's an insult. Like I said, Eden Hazard had a better Premier League career than Ryan Giggs. I don't care how much appearances this Virgin had in Premier League. Quality is what matter. And Eden Hazard was the definition of quality. Gareth Bale was the definition of quality. Without Gareth Bale, Tottenham wouldn't have had no European football. Even if they had Defoe, which they did, they had Defoe, Jermaine Defoe, Adebayor, Lennon, Kyle Walker, whoever. Bale was the main man for Tottenham, and without Bale, they just wouldn't have they just wouldn't have operated the way they operated in that 2012-2013 season. Same thing with Hazard. If it wasn't for Hazard in his last season at Chelsea, if it wasn't for Hazard in the 2014-2015 season at Chelsea, if it wasn't for Hazard in the 2016-2017 season for Chelsea, Chelsea wouldn't be Chelsea. I'm not saying he's missed at Chelsea because of course my Lampard and Drogba and John Terry would get offended, but he's up there. He's definitely up there. He's definitely up there. No questions asked. He's definitely up there in Hazard. That is why persons again hold Hazard and Gareth Bale in higher regard than Ryan Giggs. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Motherfucker, I wanted to say this at the beginning of the video, but I just wanted to get into the top because I had a few things to say. Garnacho has been officially sold to Chelsea for £40 million. Sancho is on loan again. Not again like he went on loan at Aston Villa again, but he's on loan again at Aston Villa. He's staying in the Premier League. Who else? Anthony got officially sold to Real Betis by 25 million euros. That's a good riddance. We have and Rasmus Højlund has been rid of to Napoli to join Romelu Lukaku with Kevin De Bruyne and Scott McTominay at Napoli. So yeah, and on loan. We didn't officially sold him, unfortunately. So we have gotten rid of some deadwood on some players that we don't really need at this moment. So that's a very good. But sticking on the topic, let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Is Ryan Giggs the most, like this person said, the most overrated player for the last 50 years in your opinion? Or is he overrated? And if he is overrated, state why you think he's overrated. Let me know why you think he's overrated. And with that being said, like and subscribe to the channel, hit the bell as well so that you can be notified on each upload. Yeah man, that's all I want to say, man. Ryan Giggs, Dude, I don't want to bash Ryan Giggs, but Ryan Giggs, a lot of persons give Ryan Giggs the flaws that he deserves because he's a one club player. He stayed at one club for the majority of his career, like Paul Scholes. But see, Paul Scholes wasn't overrated, at least not in my book, because I know there's certain fans that consider Paul Scholes overrated, but Paul Scholes was never over. This Belgian was world class till the time he stepped foot on a football pitch. Ever since he came out of the academy as a number 10, this Belgian was world class. Long range passes and long range shooting from midfield, could control the midfield, play as a number 8. This Belgian was Tony Kroos before Tony Kroos. This Belgian was Tony Kroos before Tony Kroos. That is so he was world class. Yeah. Paul Scholes, if Zidane is calling Paul Scholes world class, and you know, say Zidane was very world class in his peak, then you know, say Scholes was world class. You know, say Scholes was world class. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm gonna leave it at that. This is not going to be turned into a legendary Manchester United legend bashing show or bashing podcast. But I just want to let it be known that persons give Giggs the flow that he has because of his longevity. His numbers aren't that great given the appearances he made. They're not that great. Yes, he scored over 100 goals for United and he assisted over 100 assists for Manchester. But this Virgin almost has a thousand assists, a thousand appearances, and this Virgin has like 100 goals, over 100 goals, and like 180 assists, or at least almost close to 200 assists. That's not, I mean, that's that's not a good return. That's not a, I mean, listen, I'm not gonna bash the guy. He has did his time as a footballer. He was a part of this legendary history of Manchester United, so I'm not gonna bash him, but let's not act as if this virgin was like Allah on earth or God on high on earth when it comes on to Manchester United. He's no Bobby Charlton. He's no Bobby Charlton, and he's no Dennis Law or George Best. So let's not conflate his appearances for him being, oh, he's the best legend for Manchester. Oh, look at them veins, man. Oh, he's the best legend for Manchester United, and we should. Let's not do that. I mean, if you're a Ryan Giggs fan, you should know, say, he's not the best United legend at Manchester United, and we're not going to be missing. We're not going to be comparing notes as to which legend is better. We're not going to be doing that. But just to let it be known that if Ryan Giggs was sold by Manchester United in 2006 with Van Nistelrooy leaving Manchester United in 2006, he would be considered a great. I think he would be considered a great from 92 to 2006 based on how he played. Person go still call him a legend because it's over a decade. Still a decade. When you serve, apparently when you serve over a decade at a club, you're a legend. You know, so I guess that makes Luke Shaw a legend. What, you go see Luke Shaw as a legend now? Luke Shaw is a legend for Manchester United. Luke Shaw. So it depends. Again, football opinions. There's a vast variety of football opinions. But I just want to end the video by saying this. Ryan Giggs is not the most overrated player of all time. Ryan Giggs was very good back in his time. He did his time as a very good footballer. But this Virgin was not world class, bro. This Virgin was not. No, he was not that guy. That's like saying Pedro was a now I'm not gonna compare him to Pedro. That's disrespectful. But I just want to end it there because I have these thoughts in my head just wanting me to say them. But if I say them, I'm just gonna keep going and going. So I'm gonna just finish the video right here and say this. He's a legend for Manchester United, Ryan Giggs. Did his time, you know, got a lot of play time. You know, he was very good. He was very consistent. He was Mr. Consistent. When he was playing in midfield, he played very well in midfield. You know, even in deep midfield, he was playing, and he still played well. He could have paused for midfield too. But let's not act like his bridging was world class of world class. Let's not do that. Because again, if Giggs was sold, Manchester United would still thrive with the players they had without signing no new players. But if you move a Hazard from Chelsea, you would see the big impact, and they would drop. Your form would drop. If you remove Gareth Bale, which they did because he got sold, you see the impact he made, not the same impact that was made the following season. They said Tottenham signed about 7 players from the Gareth Bale 100 mil money from Real Madrid, and they could not replicate what Gareth Bale did the previous season. So what the hell does that tell you about Gareth Bale? Gareth Bale was world class. That's what it tells you. Eden Hazard was world class, not Ryan Giggs, and that's all I'm have to say on that. Leave your comments down in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts on Ryan Giggs as a Man United player. Do you consider him a Manchester United legend? I know most of you guys will, but would you consider him a Premier League legend? Well, of course, he's a Premier League legend because of his appearances, whatever. But would you put him in the upper bracket, like in the upper echelon, like Wayne Rooney, Alan Shearer, that category? Would you put him in that category? Leave your comments in the comment section, and subscribe to the channel, hit the bell as well so that you can be notified on each upload. That being said, I'm out. I'll do a preview. I'll try to do a preview for Manchester United's next game. Although no, it's international break now. So we don't have no Premier League preview. But you'll hear from me when you hear from me. I'm out.